I screamed in my sleep again. A sudden cramp in my calf jolted me awake, the pain so sharp that tears spilled from my eyes. Believe me, a midnight leg cramp feels like someone gripping your muscle with an iron fist and refusing to let go. At 60, I've learned to live with fading eyesight, silver hair, and the occasional crack in my knees. But there's one thing I can never get used to: cramps. At first, I thought it was just aging. Some people told me I lacked calcium or magnesium. Others said my blood vessels were weakening. I believed them until I looked back at my own daily habits. That's when I realized the real culprits weren't always big, dramatic issues, but the tiny little things I kept doing every single day. Scary, isn't it? When you think you're just doing something harmless, a cup of tea, a way of sitting, a sleeping habit, yet your body fights back so fiercely. The worst part is, I used to ignore them, brushing it off as no big deal. But the longer I overlooked it, the more frequent and intense the cramps became, to the point where I started fearing my own sleep. Today, I want to share with you a few things that seem harmless, but silently drain the strength of aging legs. Not everything, just a few hints, enough to make you pause and wonder, am I doing these same things every day without even noticing? If you've ever woken up in the middle of the night with a leg cramp, stay with me. What comes next might be exactly what you need to break free from this painful cycle. 1. Drinking too little water during the day. The moment I sat down, my husband put a full glass of water in front of me. He said firmly, "Drink. The best doctor you'll ever have is this glass." I frowned. "But I'm not even thirsty. Why bother?" He raised his eyebrow, half joking, half serious. "If you only drink when you're thirsty, that's like waiting for the house to catch fire before calling the fire department." I laughed, but reluctantly took a few sips. Honestly, I'd never paid much attention to water. I could go through a whole morning with just a cup of coffee, maybe add some tea by noon, and that was it. Plain water? I usually skipped it. My mouth didn't feel dry, so I figured I didn't need it. But my body had its own way of getting back at me. Some afternoons, while resting, my calf would suddenly seize up, the pain so sharp it brought tears to my eyes. My husband would rush over to massage my leg, shaking his head. "I've noticed something. On days you barely drink water, cramps always hit you at night." I snapped back. "Stop blaming me for everything." He chuckled. "I'm not blaming you. Your body is telling on you." I stayed quiet. Deep down, I knew he was right. After a while, I started paying attention. On days I drank enough water, my legs felt lighter. On days I didn't, I ended up clutching my calves at night. Then I came across a study from the National Institutes of Health, NIH. They explained that when the body is dehydrated, electrolytes like sodium, potassium, and magnesium fall out of balance. These are the traffic controllers that make muscles contract and relax smoothly. When they're off, the muscle suddenly locks up, causing cramps. Doctors even pointed out that older adults often lose their sense of thirst, making silent dehydration more dangerous. Reading that hit me hard. I realized I had been neglecting my body for years, just because I'd gotten into the habit of forgetting to drink water. The next day, my husband came up with a trick. He placed 3 glasses of water in different spots, one in the kitchen, one on my reading desk, and one by the sofa. I asked, "Are you turning our house into a hydration station?" He grinned. "Exactly. And you're the only athlete in this game." I burst out laughing, but those water traps worked. I started drinking more without forcing myself. Each time I walked by, he'd play announcer. And now our athlete is about to break today's drinking record for the third time. His teasing made water less of a chore and more of a fun little game. That night, I slept peacefully. No pain, no desperate midnight search for a warm water bottle. The next morning, I looked at him fast asleep, with his hands relaxed at his sides, and gratitude washed over me. I whispered, "Your glass of water, it heals more than just my body." I've told you about how sitting too long and ignoring water left my legs to pay the price. But honestly, those aren't even my worst habits. There's another one, far more dangerous, one I've indulged in for years, thinking it was just a harmless pleasure. But the body is never as forgiving as we think. The worst cramps, the longest, most painful ones, almost always came after days when I overindulged in this favorite drink. That's when I realized the very thing I cherished every day was quietly betraying me. And I believe many of you share this same habit. Curious what it is? Stay with me. I'll reveal it in the next part. 2. Overindulging in coffee, strong tea, or alcohol. Every morning, without fail, I start my day with a thick, strong cup of coffee. This habit has been with me for decades. The warmth spreading through me, the aroma filling the kitchen, it makes me feel a little younger. I've always believed that without coffee, I'd be tired all day, unable to get anything done. In the afternoon, instead of plain water, I'd go for a pot of strong tea. And sometimes, at gatherings with friends, I'd sip a glass or two of light wine. In my mind, these were just small pleasures of old age, nothing harmful. But my body didn't see it that way. Many mornings after coffee, by noon, I'd already feel a dull ache in my calf. By night, just stretching out my legs was enough to trigger a full-blown cramp. My husband would sit beside me, massaging my leg while shaking his head. "On days you drink a lot of coffee, I know for sure I'll be up with you at night." I argued back, though I knew he was right. "You always blame coffee. Without it, I'd be sleepy all day long." He sighed, smiling teasingly. "Sure, you're alert during the day, but at night, neither of us gets any sleep." I went silent, staring down at the coffee cup on the table. The next day, he changed tactics. He made me a lighter brew and handed it over. "Here, try this one. Special edition for a 60-year-old lady. Still fragrant, just not so strong." I frowned. "Are you trying to remind me I'm getting old?" He laughed. "No, I just want you to grow old and stay healthy." In the afternoon, instead of letting me prepare strong tea, he placed a pitcher of water next to me. When I reached for the teapot, he quickly cut in. "Plain water is the real luxury drink. It never causes cramps." I pouted. "Luxury? It's tasteless and boring." He leaned closer and whispered, "Tasteless, yes, but peaceful. Strong tea is too dramatic. Can you really handle that?" His playful words made me laugh, and I quietly picked up the glass of water. Another evening, instead of dark tea, he handed me a cup of light floral tea with a soft fragrance. I asked in surprise, "When did you make this? I didn't even get the chance to object." He shrugged. "I thought if I waited for you to argue, you'd end up in pain again. Better to be ready ahead of time?" I laughed out loud, but my heart warmed. Maybe he was right. Those drinks I'd treasured for years weren't really faithful companions. Sometimes they were silent enemies. That night, I slept all the way through, without being jolted awake by cramps. When I woke, I looked at the man who had stood by me through all these years, and I realized the most precious thing wasn't giving up coffee or strong tea. It was having someone patient and playful enough to gently pull me away from harmful habits. You know, every time I share my story, many people my age write back, "I've had the same thing, losing sleep to cramps, but I never thought it was my own habits causing them." That's why, if what I've shared sounds familiar to you or someone in your family, don't hesitate to hit like and pass it along. Just one click might save someone else from the painful nights I've endured. And if you'd like to hear more real experiences, little stories about cramps and aging joints, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell for my newest videos. Believe me, none of us are alone on this journey. The more we share, the more strength we'll find to live healthy, peaceful lives. Now, let's move on to another habit just as dangerous. 3. Showering with cold water at night. There was another habit that once made my life miserable, taking late-night showers with cold water. In the summer, after a long hot day, I often waited until late at night before stepping into the bathroom. The cold water streaming over my skin made me shiver, but it also felt refreshing, like it was washing away the day's exhaustion. I thought it would help me sleep better, but just minutes after lying down, my body rebelled. My legs tightened, blood vessels constricted, and then, out of nowhere, a cramp struck. I bolted upright, clutching my calf, breaking into a sweat even though I had just showered. My husband woke up, his voice worried yet laced with gentle reproach. "I knew it. You took another cold shower, didn't you?" I snapped back. "It's so hot. How else am I supposed to fall asleep?" He sighed, sitting beside me and gently massaging my leg. "Fall asleep? All I see is you writhing in pain all night." I stayed quiet. He wasn't wrong. That fleeting chill I'd enjoyed had only bought me a night of misery. From that day, he changed his approach. Instead of scolding, he prepared warm water for me in advance. Sometimes I catch him fiddling with the temperature, then hear him joke, "This is my special anti-cramp water, made just for you." I laughed, but inside I felt touched. I tried bathing with warm water, as he suggested. To my surprise, my body didn't shiver afterward, and my muscles stayed relaxed. That night, I slept straight through, no sudden wake-ups, no pain. Gradually, I gave up cold showers at night. Each time I stepped into the bathroom and saw the steam rising, I remembered his half-joking words, and every morning I woke up without stiffness. I realized just how deceptive comfort can be. Sometimes it's nothing more than a trap for your health. Watching him prepare the water, I couldn't help but smile. At this age, I don't need to be strong anymore. I just need someone to remind me to avoid small mistakes. And luckily, I have him by my side, patient, playful, and caring enough to help me let go of habits that once seemed harmless, but were quietly dangerous. 4. Sleeping in the wrong position. I've always been used to sleeping with my head propped high on pillows, stretching my legs stiff and straight, or sometimes even resting my legs on another pillow for comfort. This habit followed me from my younger years, and I never thought it could be harmful. But as time passed, my body proved less forgiving. One night, after a long day, I lay down with my head stacked on 2 thick pillows. I stretched my legs out stiffly, pulled up the blanket, and expected a good night's sleep. Instead, in the middle of the night, a fierce cramp struck. I shot up in pain, letting out a muffled cry, sweat breaking across my skin. My husband woke with a start, rushing to help. "Again? You stretched your legs straight as a board, didn't you?" he asked, holding me as I winced. I groaned. I just wanted to feel comfortable. He massaged my leg, his voice half scolding, half tender. "Comfortable? All I see is you in pain all night and me losing sleep right beside you." His words sank deep. The next morning, as I sat silently on the bed, he walked in with a thinner pillow and placed it next to me. "Try this. Just high enough to rest your head, but not so high that your muscles stay tight all night." That evening, I gave it a try. At first, it felt odd and a little uncomfortable, but soon enough, my body relaxed. The night passed peacefully, no cramps, no gasping in the dark. The next morning, I looked at him and felt a wave of gratitude for his patience, for walking with me through even my most restless nights. Since then, whenever I reach for extra pillows, he teases, "Don't build a skyscraper under that little head of yours. One pillow is plenty." His humor makes me laugh, and also keeps me obediently sticking to the one-pillow rule. 5. Sitting or lying in one position too long one evening. My husband and I binge-watched 3 old episodes in a row. Both of us sat glued to the screen, hardly moving an inch. When the show finally ended, I stood up, and my left leg suddenly stiffened, my thigh heavy, as if it had been tied tight. I dropped back onto the chair with a groan. "Again?" my husband asked, still half distracted by the commercials flashing on the TV. "Yeah, this time it's worse," I muttered through clenched teeth, clutching my calf. He sighed, stood up to fetch a warm water bottle, and shook his head. "I told you, sit frozen like this, and one day you'll pay for it." I didn't respond, just pressed the warm bottle against the pane. But his words echoed in my mind. Maybe he was right. Somehow, staying still for too long had become my routine. I could sit reading the paper for hours without moving. I could lie in bed scrolling my phone until my shoulders went numb and my feet grew heavy. And the result? Sudden cramps that made me dread even the simple act of standing up. The next time we watched TV, during a commercial break, he tapped my shoulder. "Up you go. Walk around the living room. I don't want to see you cramping again." I groaned. "Too lazy?" He crossed his arms. "Your choice. Stand for 2 minutes or clutch your leg all night." Reluctantly, I got up and shuffled around the room. To my surprise, the blood rushing back into my legs brought such relief. That night, for the first time in weeks, I slept peacefully without a single cramp. Another time, I ignored his advice. I sprawled on the sofa, wrapped in a blanket, scrolling my phone. He watched for a while before saying, "You'll be crying in pain later, you'll see." I brushed it off. But sure enough, in the middle of the night, a brutal cramp hit me. I screamed, startling him awake. He didn't scold, just sat quietly massaging my leg. In that moment, between pain and regret, I felt like I was punishing us both. From then on, we set a little timer. Every 45 minutes, when the bell rang, we both stood up. He stretched his back. I walked a few laps around the house. Anyone watching us might have laughed. 2 old folks pacing like toddlers learning to walk. But only we understood the value of those small steps. "See? Not hard at all," he often chuckled. I'd rather walk a few laps now than run for hot water in the middle of the night. I laughed too. He was right. Such a small habit, yet it saved me from countless sleepless, painful nights. Now, when I look back, I realize sitting still is like tying yourself up. I chose to break free, and thankfully, I had a husband patient enough to remind me. His grumbles, in hindsight, turned out to be the best medicine. 6. Not moving enough. During the day, after we started using the timer to remind ourselves to stand, I thought I had solved the problem. But there was another trap I rarely noticed. I simply wasn't moving enough throughout the day. Not just sitting too long, but hardly moving at all. In the morning, I'd make coffee, eat breakfast, then sit reading the paper. At noon, I'd shuffle around the kitchen. In the afternoon, I'd lie down, claiming my body needed recovery. By the end of the day, I'd only taken a few hundred steps, when experts say we should be taking at least several thousand. My husband noticed. One day he asked, "Have you realized? You haven't been walking with me these past few days." I laughed it off. "Walking is too tiring. You go ahead without me." His eyes turned serious. "And who's the one crying in pain every night, me or you?" I had no answer. He was right. So one afternoon, I decided to join him for a walk around the neighborhood. After just 3 blocks, my legs felt heavy, muscles tightening. I stopped, panting. "I can't do this. I must be weaker than you thought." He placed a hand on my shoulder. "You're not weak. Your muscles are just used to being lazy. It's like a rubber band left untouched. It stiffens up. To soften it again, you have to stretch it." That thought haunted me the rest of the evening. He was right. My body was like an old rubber band. Without movement, it had lost its elasticity, and that stiffness became the perfect breeding ground for sudden cramps. Later, I came across a small study from Harvard Health. It said that older adults who don't exercise have 1.5 times the risk of cramps compared to those who do light activity daily. The reason is simple. Movement keeps blood flowing, stretches muscles, and helps them remember how to contract and release properly. Without it, muscles forget their job and protest with painful spasms. I felt like living proof. One night, after I complained of pain again, my husband silently handed me an old pair of sneakers. "Tomorrow, we'll walk in the park. No need to go far, no need to go fast. Just walk." The next morning, he kept his word. The air was cool, and I almost used it as an excuse to stay home. But his patient gaze made me feel guilty refusing. We walked slowly, talking along the way. At first, I felt heavy, but soon my breathing steadied and my steps grew lighter. Back home, the biggest surprise was that I actually felt good. That night, I slept deeply, no cramps at all. Waking up, I looked at him and whispered, "You win. Turns out exercise is the cheapest medicine." He laughed. "I didn't win. We both did. You're no longer in pain, and I don't have to wake up at midnight." From then on, walking became our routine. Some days just a few laps in the yard. Other days, longer strolls through the park. What mattered most was that my body slowly regained its flexibility. The cramps came less often, giving me hope that even in old age I could take control of my health, with nothing more than the simple choice to keep moving. 7. Skipping warm-ups and stretching before exercise. Another mistake I used to make was exercising without ever warming up or stretching. I thought, it's just walking. Why bother? I'd slip on my shoes and head out. Or if I went cycling around the neighborhood, I figured it wasn't a competition, so why take it so seriously? But soon enough, my body gave me a lesson I'll never forget. One morning, my husband and I went for a walk in the park. Feeling eager to make up for all my lazy days, I started off at a brisk pace. Not even halfway round, my calf tightened, cramping so hard I had to stop, clutching my leg with a grimace. My husband stopped too, his voice tinged with frustration. I told you, start slow. Warm up first. But no, you had to dash off like a marathon runner. Panting, both in pain and irritation, I snapped, I just wanted to finish quickly and get home. I didn't expect this. He looked at me with both sympathy and amusement. And what did rushing get you? In the end, I still have to carry you home. And that's exactly how the morning ended, with me limping, leaning on him, breathless and embarrassed. Back home, I collapsed onto the couch, ashamed and angry at myself. The next day, he tried a different approach. Before our walk, he stood in the yard, deliberately rotating his wrists and ankles. When he saw me just standing there watching, he called out playfully, "Ladies and gentlemen, we now invite our special guest to join the warm-up routine, or else no walk today." I burst out laughing. "You're acting like a kid," he replied with a straight face. "Even kids warm up before soccer. Are we really going to let age make us more careless than children?" He had a point. So I joined in, rolling my shoulders, stretching my hips, pulling on my calves. At first it felt silly, but after a few minutes, my body warmed up, and my steps felt much lighter. That day, we walked 2 full laps around the park without a single cramp. That evening, I lay in bed, surprised that my legs weren't sore at all. I turned to him and whispered, "Turns out warming up doesn't take much, but it saves me from a whole day of pain." He smiled. "I just want you to exercise for health, not for suffering." From then on, every morning, he patiently waited for me to warm up with him. In the afternoon, after walking, he reminded me to stretch, bend forward, loosen my calves. I often felt lazy, but seeing his persistence made it hard to refuse. One day, I teased him, "You're as serious as a personal trainer." He laughed. "That's exactly what I am, and I can't afford to lose my only client." We both laughed together in the fading light of evening, and I realized those small stretches not only loosened my muscles, they drew us closer together. Conclusion: looking back, I've realized that cramps don't just come from aging or illness, they mostly spring from the small habits we repeat every day. How we sit, how we drink water, even the way we shower at night or skip a few minutes of warm-up. These little things quietly sow the seeds of pain, waiting for the moment to strike in the dark of night. But thanks to those painful episodes, I learned to truly listen to my body, to adjust my habits, and, most importantly, to appreciate the value of having a life partner patient enough to remind me, support me, and walk with me through each change. If you or someone you love shares these habits, try adjusting them today. Sometimes, just a glass of water, a few steps around the room, or a single minute of stretching is enough to save you from an exhausting night. And if this story resonates with you, please hit like to spread the message to more older adults. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. I'll be sharing more real experiences, stories, and lessons about cramps, joint health, and aging. I'd also love to hear from you. Have you or your loved ones ever had a memorable experience with cramps? Share it in the comments. Let's exchange stories and help one another live healthier, happier lives.